Hey, look, we all make mistakes, right? So when you make a mistake, can you envision that person who reminds you how much you mean to them? How about this? Rather than one person, can you imagine an entire culture, an entire society reminding you how much you mean to them, reminding you that you are greater than the sum of your accomplishments and failures? Intrigued? Stick around, we're talking about it today. What's good? I am Marc Cordon Creative, and I help folks disrupt the status quo on big stages like TEDx events or podcasts or digital courses and a whole bunch of other creative outlets. Today, we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a virtuous friendship. So, you might be already thinking, what is a virtuous friendship? So, to do that, we're going to take a page from Aristotle, and specifically, the page is from his book Nicomachean Ethics, where he describes virtuous friendships. And not only that, he describes three types of friendships overall. So, first up, we have friendships of utility, utilitarian friendships. And what happens in this type of friendship, this type of relationship, is I have something that you want. You have something that I want, and then we exchange for it, right? So when I go to Starbucks, I go and give them money. They want my money. And then they give me my coffee. Exchange happiness through that. Specifically, I'm thinking about this time when I was a freshman in college, taking biology 141 with Dr. Westmoreland. And I did not want to wake up and be in class at 8 o'clock. I am just not a morning person. And so what happened was that the person sitting next to me, Sybil, she would go in, she would take notes. And then when I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we would go and exchange. She gave me the notes from Bio 141, and I would usually pay for her lunch or dinner, right? These are friendships that are based on utility. I needed the notes, she wanted the food, interaction, it's pleasant, but it really never went any more than that. I really didn't get to know this woman on a deeper basis. I just wanted the notes, okay? And I still screwed up on the class. So the next relationship that Plato, not Plato, what the hell? Plato? The hell back in your cave, Plato. Talking about Aristotle today. All right, the next type of relationship that Aristotle talked about is this relationship of pleasure, right? You have something in common with another person. You have a hobby that you want to share with another person. I remember being in a roller derby team for a couple of months. Oh, and I wasn't I wasn't known as Marc Cordone. I was known as Manila Ice Creative. And here's the thing, we spent many times a week, many hours, like having each other's backs and practicing and pushing ourselves to the limits. And the thing was outside of the roller derby team, I did not feel a connection with anybody, right? And that was fine. I'm also thinking back to, let's go back to my my college years. I'm not going to Bio 141. And I don't know if I was selected or if folks picked me or invited me. I was on a Bhangra, an Indian dance troupe in college, and I was super light, and maybe that's why they like wanted me so they could throw me around. I can only remember this. I did this a lot, right? And I also did this, right? And it was the best of times. Again, we spent multiple times a week rehearsing because we were actually in some, I think we were in some like uh, shows or like competitions or anything like that, but we worked hard on this Bungra team, right? And we also played hard. So after practice or after a competition or after a demo, we would go and we pounded it hard at bars, right? And I remember one of my buddies, he whenever we were like kind of inebriated and celebrating, he would put his arm around me and he's like, Mark, like you're my bud. And I'm like, yeah, man. And he's like, no, you don't get it. Like you are my, you're like my blood. And I'm like, yeah, you're like my blood too, right? And so here we are, relationship of pleasure. And we never spent any time getting to know each other outside of the Bungra troop and that party culture. And I actually think about it, and I'd be uncomfortable if I'd like go and have breakfast with Robbie because that's not necessarily what I think Robbie and I saw our relationship based on. It was a relationship of pleasure. All right, so let's talk about this third friendship that Aristotle talked about. This is the crispy de la creme of friendships. This is the gold standard of relationships, according to Aristotle. And this goes further than just mere personal gain. It goes further than just mere enjoyment and goes into this idea that in order for me to be the happiest form of myself, I need to see you in your happiest self. And so that blows the doors off of like the previous types of relationships. It wasn't like that for utilitarian. I needed to get from you to be happy. I needed to get from you to be in this relationship of pleasure, right? I needed to take from you. But here in this virtuous relationship, I want to see you being your best self with no strings attached on my end. And as a virtuous friend, I can help you achieve that. I've got your back. I can even challenge you. I can even call you out on certain things if you're trying to get to that highest form of happiness. For me, I also don't need to be around a virtuous friend 24/7. They can be gone for like 12 to 18 months. And then when we get back together, we pick up where we left off. So, what I want you to think about is, who are your virtuous friends? Family members, people from around the globe, people who you started off not being virtuous friends with, hating each other maybe. Who are they? What do they mean to you? And go and list a few down here in the chat, in the comment box. And maybe that's going to help other folks think about the virtuous friends that are in their lives and dislodge some of those ideas. I certainly forget the virtuous friends in my life sometime. And I'm kind of making a note here to get in touch with them and just let them know how much I care about them. So that's a virtuous relationship. So I got to work a number of years at a university, and the coolest part of that was hanging out with the students. And I had this couple that would come in multiple times a week. They'd plop down in my office. We'd shoot the shit, talking about classes, talking about what's going on in the world, talking about what's going on with them. Inseparable, amazing couple. And then something amazing happened, was that one of the members of this relationship scored a huge internship in London. And so one thing that surprised me was the other member of the relationship came in, wanted to talk to me, wanted to close the door, super serious. And he said, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, sure, it's a great internship, but what about me? What am I supposed to do this summer? Should I break up with her? Should I do this? Should I do that? And very, very quickly, I realized that he was not in a virtuous relationship with her. He was still wanting to sort of take and take. And as a result, it was very, very easy for me to spot that he wasn't in integrity with being a virtuous person or a virtuous partner. So, given that case study, how can you actually identify a virtuous friend? The first one, mutual respect. Who do you know that respects you to your very core and is not just in it for what you can do for them? The second thing is shared values. Do they share similar ethical standards or philosophical underpinnings, or just values in terms of how they navigate through the world? That's something that you want to look for when it comes to a virtuous friend. The third thing is challenge and support. When things get tough, do they provide you with that boost, that support needed to pull you up and over? Also, if you're kind of taking the day off, do they hold the mirror to you and call you out? Those are great markers to a virtuous friend. The fourth point is this: do they have genuine interest in your growth? They're not someone who gets jealous or compares themselves to you when you have these great wins. This is a person who is genuinely happy when you have personal and professional wins. All right, the last point is consistency. Now, by consistency, I mean this. This is a person who shows up: rain, snow, sleet, hail, UFO landings, wins, losses, happy times, sad times. This is a person who shows up every single time, not just when it's convenient for them. So there you go, the three kinds of relationships as written by Aristotle. I hope you got something out of this, but before we go, I wanted to go back to the statement I made at the very beginning of this video. And the statement is this: we make mistakes. And sometimes we need someone to remind us just how much they appreciate us. That is the virtuous friend. That is the virtuous friend. Now, here's the thing: Can you imagine what a culture would look like, a society would look like if the entire society embraced virtuous friends? And you may be thinking this, it's absolutely impossible, but it's not because it already exists. The Babemba tribe in Northern Africa, when someone messes up, they take the person, they make a circle around them, and every person goes and reminds the person who made the mistake just how much they mean to them. Can you think of how powerful that be? It's it's a profound concept, and it's obviously working with them. So, something to consider. So, with that said, be good, do good, dig deep. I'll see you in the underground. What would you do if I sang out of tune? Who are the people in your neighborhood? Hey, don't want to papa. Welcome to the jungle. Always lean to virtual insanity time after time.